So you're thinking about making the move to the South Charlotte, North Carolina area. You've heard all the things about the North Carolina versus South Carolina debate as far as which one's better. You're checking out all the searches online, you're in the Facebook groups, and you're getting a lot of information. Well, in this video, we're gonna highlight the battle between North Carolina and South Carolina so you can make the best decision for you on some of the hottest topics that people look at when they decide between the two, because you've got the taxes you hear are better in South Carolina, the schools are better in North Carolina. So let's dive in and really highlight the truth so you can make the best decision for you. So let's jump right in. So round one, first to start off, I'm not an accountant, nor do I claim to be one, but we can definitely talk about some of the very obvious, very high level savings and overall income that the differences between South Carolina and North Carolina are available. And as a lot of people, when you're moving to these areas, you want to find out, where do I have the most savings, or where do I keep the most of my money? And it's really comparing those savings both on income tax and overall property taxes to know, where am I coming from? I'm moving from New York to Charlotte. Obviously those taxes are super important because you're saving in general overall, but we want to know which one between Charlotte, North Carolina, or Charlotte, South Carolina is going to reap the most benefit. So in the North Carolina area, the income tax has dropped to a 3.99% rate, which is a flat fee rate, as opposed to South Carolina. You always hear about South Carolina having a lower overall tax. That's not always true, as we're going to talk about. But in North Carolina, let's compare that income tax, which does have that savings. Your property tax in Mecklenburg or Union County is going to be around 0.8% to 1.1%. In South Carolina, yes, your property tax is going to be quite a bit less in general, and that's going to be anywhere from 0.5% for your primary residence. South Carolina has a graduated income tax that can go up to 6.2%. So you really want to look at, where does that lie for me, for my family, and what my current situation is. So the solution, if you are a high earning family, that's 2% difference in income tax that might actually wipe out your property tax savings. If you make $200,000 a year, then you're paying roughly $4,000 more in state income tax just for the privilege of living in South Carolina, but it really depends. So I always tell my clients, as a real estate professional, number one, talk to your accountant and make sure you understand what your current situation is. But also, you want to, if you're looking to, in general, you want more house for your money, South Carolina typically wins. If you want to keep more of your paycheck, you have to look at your tax burden, your tax situation, not just the property tax bill. And that's what a lot of people originally do when they compare South Carolina and North Carolina. And the big thing, pro tip that I'll share as well when it comes to taxes, North Carolina versus South Carolina. If you are looking to invest or have a secondary home, that could be an investment property or it could just be your second home, South Carolina has an additional tax that can almost double your property tax bill in having it in South Carolina versus having that second home in the North Carolina. That's why North Carolina is certainly a more investor friendly, or you may not even be investing. Like I said, it could be your second home, your mountain home. North Carolina definitely wins there. That's what you're looking for. And our next challenger in the battle of South Carolina and North Carolina is, how are we gonna spend our Saturdays? Are we gonna spend it in a car, trying to do something to entertain ourselves, amenities? Well, let's talk about those two areas. What are we doing for activities? And when we look at North Carolina, you have a variety of options. I like to look at, especially on the border of North Carolina, South Carolina, at the Ballantyne area, which has the newer, the Bowl area, which is a multi-use outdoor mall area with high-end shopping, restaurants, not just high-end restaurants we have to dress up and make it a whole day out of it, but they have a place to go get a hamburger. They've got Harriet's for burgers. You can go over to Old Meck Brewery, which is a huge facility that you can bring the kids to. And you also have some living area with apartments, but it is a great area with a park. And I know my wife and a lot of people around here are excited because they have a Wegmans coming that is going to be a showstopper, but it does have the outdoor walkability, things to do. You can go spend an afternoon there, and there's a lot of similar type areas in the North Carolina area. So you do have things to do and easy access as well for amenities that are right here in the North Carolina area. Now, when we head just a little south across the border from Ballantyne to the South Carolina area, it becomes more about the outdoors and things to do in South Carolina than necessarily the North Carolina part of Charlotte. You've got areas like Ann Springs Greenway, which is an absolute monstrosity of a park or greenway that you can spend. I mean, you can spend all day, all weekend exploring such a huge area with things to do, parks, walking trails. There is a much to do there. And you're also adding on to the outdoors. You also do have shopping and new things coming up in Fort Mill, Topeka Cay, but it's more of the outdoors green space that you feel when you're in the South Carolina part of our competition. So if you're more into that, you have more options definitely on the South Carolina side than North Carolina. They both have things to do, but it really depends on what you want to be close to and what's most important to you, because they both have options. And finally, I don't know what we would do if we didn't talk about the commute or traffic that you have to deal with. And ultimately it depends on, are you working from home? How close are you to what you need to be close to, whether it's shopping or outdoors. But I will say, if you're looking to commute to Uptown, if you need to work closer to South End or to the main Charlotte areas, obviously the North Carolina side in general is going to make the most sense, but you also want to look at, am I close to 485 or 77? Make sure where you are is a access point to the areas you need to get to. So in general, obviously North Carolina is going to get you closer, but you also need to look at the traffic, which traffic in general, you're going to have higher traffic in the North Carolina portions, especially Ballantyne, or if you're on Providence Road, you're going to get congestion, especially between 4:30 and beyond during work days. But you definitely want to compare what your lifestyle is and what your driving needs are, because it can make a huge difference, especially during those rush hour times. Quick timeout. If this is your first time to our channel and you want to continue getting updates on the new things going on in the South Charlotte area, make sure you like, subscribe, so you can be the first to know as we share new information in general about the South Charlotte area. I'm Steve Giro with the Longleaf Group, and I absolutely love helping people just like you every single day make the move, the right move for you to the Charlotte and South Charlotte area. So make sure you reach out. All of our information's below. My information, we can connect on a Zoom. We can talk about what makes sense for you and learn more about the area. But most importantly, let's jump back in and let's talk and see what the challenge is like between North Carolina and South Carolina. And let's see what that number 2 is, which, little sneak peek, it has to do with schools. So yes, next up is schools, and this is a lot of times a deal breaker or tiebreaker for families or individuals that schools are super important. And the reality that most people think of when they hear North Carolina versus South Carolina, or the border of, I'm trying to decide between the North Carolina area of Charlotte, is North Carolina, hands down, wins when it comes to schools. And there's a good reason for that thought, which is North Carolina with Union County and schools like Marvin Ridge High School having the #1 ranking in the North Carolina region, as well as schools ranking that rank from 10 out of 10 on niche.com or greatschools.org. And there is a ton of good schools with Audrey Kell having the high ranked across the board with college readiness and the athletics that you really don't necessarily think about when you're looking at test scores and the rankings that usually don't pull in some of the extracurricular activities that are a huge part of the student's life and overall enjoyment and growth in school. And North Carolina does have the highly ranked schools. They also have schools that don't have the highly ranked numbers that some of the others do. They have a mixed bag, but they do have great rankings when you're looking at especially the South Charlotte clusters. Now, when we're looking at South Carolina, what people don't a lot of times realize without doing some digging and research is York County is the #1 school ranking for public school systems in the South Carolina area. And that entails schools like Fort Mill High School and the Catawba Ridge High School. There's a number of clusters on the north part of South Carolina that are 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. It really depends on which ranking you look at, but they also are highly ranked that don't necessarily get off the top of your head as you're looking and exploring in South Charlotte and Charlotte in general, that these schools are ranked as high as they are. And with rankings and with comparing the two, when you're looking at North Carolina, the highly ranked schools we just mentioned also come in a very highly priced areas as well. Marvin Ridge being one of the most affluent, highly priced homes, and there's great reason for them with the large estate type of homes ranging in the upper millions of whether it's $1 million to $3 million in the Marvin Ridge area. Just depends on the home and what's available, but that's a very tight cluster, higher priced area. Same with Ballantyne with high priced homes. Those are going to come with a price tag. Now in South Carolina, in York County, and that are zoned for Fort Mill, even out into Clover, another highly ranked school, but not nearly the price tag that you're gonna see for the North Carolina areas. So, as we said earlier, with the South Carolina, typically you're gonna get more for your money with the price of homes and with the schools, but you also, from a location, you're farther south, you're outside the area, especially if we're talking about Clover. It is a haul if you're trying to go to Uptown for work. Probably not going to be the most attractive option for that case, but you definitely need to look at the overall pathway, is what we say, for comparing the school, academics, athletics for sure, if that's important to you, and the overall extracurricular activities that are a part of the school, and not just looking at or assuming that the North Carolina is definitely going to be the winner in this. It may not be the case, but you have great options on both sides. Okay, so the verdict is in, and if you're looking for the lower income tax, if you're looking for in general higher ranked schools across the board and more number of highly ranked schools, also you're looking for the newer outdoor things to do like the bowl, or you like Wegmans, for example, North Carolina is going to be your choice. Obviously, points to be considered if it's the right area for you. South Carolina, if you're looking for overall lower property taxes, unless you're an investor, and outdoor arrangements, things to do outside, in general, South Carolina is going to be the best fit for you. A lot of things to be considered within there. They both have their pluses and minuses, but the also benefit is they're not far from each other. So you can easily be in South Carolina and North Carolina, and a lot of times you won't even know until you see the sign telling you where you are. So with all that said, if you have any questions about what's the best fit for you, want to learn more about the intimate knowledge of the community or what it may be like living there, make sure you reach out. Let's jump on a Zoom. We'll talk more about it. But until next time, until we see which is better between North Carolina, South Carolina, or other areas, I'll see you then.